Captain Elias Kane had seen many worlds, but nothing like Lithra. The moment his ship pierced the green-hued atmosphere, he felt a mix of awe and unease. The planet was alive with light and motion, cities of silver and crystal spiraling into the clouds, and rivers glowing faintly like liquid emeralds. Birds or something like birds glided in the sky with long translucent wings. Elias had fought in wars, survived crashes, and faced alien wildlife, but the beauty of Lithra made him pause. He had never felt so small. His mission was clear: negotiate peace with the Lithrians and secure a stable alliance. Yet, the stories he had heard about their culture hinted at a more dangerous challenge. The Lithrians were proud and strict, valuing strength and honor above all else. Their soldiers were unmatched in speed and skill. Their leaders, especially the royal family, were feared as much as they were respected. Elias knew that one wrong move could turn this diplomatic mission into a massacre. He landed near the capital, a sprawling city of towering silver spires and floating platforms. As he stepped out of the ship, the wind carried a faint hum, almost like music. He adjusted his uniform, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. But even as he prepared to meet the Lithirian council, a more human emotion stirred curiosity. He wanted to see this world, to understand it, to feel its pulse beneath his feet. Then he saw her. Princess Solara stood on a balcony above the crowd, watching the newcomers with piercing eyes. Her hair was golden, shimmering in the alien sunlight, and her presence radiated authority and confidence. She was not just a symbol of the Lithirian throne. She was fire made flesh, and Elias could feel it from yards away. There was something in her gaze that made him catch his breath, a mixture of challenge, pride, and unspoken warning. No human had ever stood in her presence without trembling. Elias felt a spark of defiance rise in him. He would not bow to intimidation, but there was no time to admire. The council meeting had barely begun when alarms blared across the palace. Red lights flashed, and the deep hum of energy shields shifted. Chaos erupted as a faction of rogue Lithrians stormed the hall. They wanted the princes not for ransom, but for control. Whoever held Solara held the throne. The situation escalated in seconds. Courtiers screamed, guards drew their energy blades, and Elias's instincts kicked in. Without thinking, he ran toward the danger. Protocol and rank did not matter now. He saw a group of attackers closing in on Solara, and without hesitation, he threw himself between them. Blaster fire streaked past, sizzling in the air, but Elias moved fast, blocking shots with the edge of his armored gauntlet. The Lithrians around him moved with speed, but no one acted like a human, reckless, unpredictable, willing to risk everything for another life. Elias could hear his own heartbeat, sharp and steady, as if every beat said the same thing. Protect her. Solara's eyes widened, and for the first time, Elias saw vulnerability in her. She was brave, unshakable before her people, yet in that moment, she was human, too frightened, cornered, and alone. Her hand brushed against the edge of a railing, and Elias grabbed it instinctively, pulling her back from danger. She looked at him, and he met her gaze. No words were spoken, but a connection was made. The attackers advanced, but Elias refused to retreat. He used his strength and speed, human ingenuity against alien precision. He ducked, rolled, and struck with calculated force. In the chaos, he shielded her body with his own absorbing blows that would have shattered a Lithirian guard. Every strike left him bruised, but he did not care. The mission had changed. It was no longer diplomacy, it was survival. Finally, he spotted an escape route, a narrow corridor behind the council chambers. He grabbed Solara's hand and pulled her along. She hesitated, her golden hair falling across her face, but Elias's grip was firm. "Trust me," he said, and though the words were simple, they carried everything: courage, urgency, and an unspoken promise. Together, they vanished into the hidden halls of the palace, leaving chaos behind. Outside, in a quiet courtyard, the world seemed to pause. The wind whispered through alien trees, and the hum of the city softened. Solara turned to Elias, eyes wide, chest heaving. "Who are you?" she asked, voice trembling slightly, a sound Elias had never expected from a princess. "I'm just a human," he said, though even he knew it was more than that. In that moment, he was not a soldier, a diplomat, or a guest. He was a protector. And nothing, no alien faction, no queen. No law would make him abandon her. The green skies of Lithra glowed above them. But the real fire was between them, a spark of trust, bravery, and the promise of a story that had only just begun. Elias's heart pounded as he led Princess Solara through the twisting corridors of the palace. The sounds of chaos shouts, blaster fire, and alarms faded behind them, replaced by the quiet hum of Lithra's inner halls. Every step was measured, every corner a possible threat, but Elias moved with purpose. He had faced ambush before, but never for someone like her. Solara was not just a princess. She was a symbol of hope for her people, and in that moment, she became everything to him. Solara stumbled once, her delicate foot catching on a marble step, and Elias's hand shot out instinctively to steady her. "Careful," he said softly, though his voice carried the weight of urgency. She looked at him, eyes wide with surprise and something else, an unspoken question. Elias didn't answer with words. His actions spoke for him. He would not let anything happen to her. Not here. Not ever. They turned into a small service corridor, dimly lit by glowing panels, and Elias paused. He knew they could not run forever. The rogue faction that had attacked the council was trained, ruthless, and relentless. If they were caught, Solara would be their hostage, and he would fail in the one thing that mattered, keeping her safe. Elias crouched and examined a side door. "Through here," he whispered. He pushed it open, revealing a hidden garden courtyard. The air was cool and fresh, a strange contrast to the chaos inside. Alien plants with translucent leaves glimmered in the light, and delicate streams of water trickled over smooth stones. Solara took a small step forward, awe replacing her fear. Elias allowed himself a brief moment to breathe. This small oasis was their sanctuary, however temporary, but there was no time to rest. Elias could feel movement behind them, the soft echo of footsteps and the hum of energy shields powering up. The rogue Lithurians were coming. He looked at Solara. Her hands trembled slightly, her golden hair falling across her face. "Stay close," he said, his voice steady, reassuring as the first attackers appeared at the garden's edge. Elias acted without hesitation. He blocked a strike aimed at Solara, deflecting it with the armored bracer he always wore. The energy blades sizzled against the metal, sparks flying into the air. Elias swung back, striking another assailant with precise force. He moved like water-fast fluid, unpredictable. The human's fighting style was different, and the Lithurians faltered. Surprised by his raw courage and ingenuity, Solara watched, awe and fear mingling in her expression. She had never seen anyone fight like this. Not a soldier of Lithra, not a guard of the palace. Elias fought not for glory or rank, but for her, and every motion showed it. He was willing to put his life on the line, to endure pain, to risk death. And she felt it. She felt the weight of his determination, the strength behind his human resolve. Finally, Elias saw the chance. A narrow tunnel beneath the garden's fountain led away from the courtyard. He grabbed Solara's hand and pulled her toward it. "This way." "Quickly," he urged. She followed, stumbling once, but he steadied her again, his hands firm. Protective. Inside the tunnel, the world narrowed to the sound of their footsteps and the steady rhythm of Elias's heartbeat. He kept his arm around her shoulder, shielding her as they moved. For the first time, Solara allowed herself to feel safe, not from fear of the enemy, but from trust in him. She had been taught to rely on no one, to guard her heart, to hold herself above danger. Yet here, with this human, she felt something unfamiliar and powerful. Hope. Hours seemed to pass as they moved through the tunnels, guided by Elias's instincts and knowledge of human improvisation. Every shadow was a potential threat, but every step brought them farther from death. Finally, they emerged into another garden courtyard, larger and more open than the first. The night sky of Lithra stretched above them, stars twinkling in a color humans could not name. Solara stopped and turned to Elias, her chest heaving, her golden hair damp from sweat. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling, a mixture of awe, fear, and gratitude. Elias met her gaze, tired but unyielding. "I'm just a human," he said simply, though the words could not capture the depth of what he felt. For the first time, she smiled, not the controlled, regal smile of a princess, but a real, honest smile. "You risked everything for me," she whispered. Elias nodded. "Because it's right. Because you deserve to live." And in that moment, amid the glowing plants and alien stars, a bond formed. Not of duty, not of politics, but of trust, courage, and shared humanity. Elias had rescued her body, but she had unknowingly rescued his spirit as well. Lithra was still a dangerous world, full of enemies and unknown threats. But for now, in that hidden garden, human and princess stood together, breathing, alive, and aware that nothing, neither alien nor fate, would break the connection they had begun to forge. Days passed in the hidden corners of Lithra. and Elias Kane and Princess Solara grew closer with every passing hour. The chaos of the palace and the relentless pursuit of the rogue faction kept them moving. But it was not just survival that shaped their days, it was understanding. They communicated in simple words, gestures, and shared glances, learning each other's fears, hopes, and unspoken thoughts. Elias's human ways were strange to Solara, but they were honest. He laughed easily, even in danger, and did not hide his emotions behind titles or tradition. It was unfamiliar to her, yet comforting. Solara had lived all her life under the weight of expectation. Every movement, every word, every glance was scrutinized. She was the princess, the future queen, untouchable and untamed in appearance but controlled within. Yet with Elias, she could breathe. She could stumble, smile, or laugh without fear of judgment. She could be herself. The first time she had tripped over the roots of an alien tree in the garden, Elias had caught her and, instead of scolding her as any Lithirian would, he had grinned. "Careful," he said, teasing lightly. Solara had laughed aloud, the sound pure and free. And Elias had felt a warmth in his chest he had never known in the endless battles and lonely missions of Earth. Elias, for his part, discovered a side of himself that no battlefield had shown him. Humans fought for survival, for victory, for honor, but he now fought for something deeper: connection. Protecting Solara was no longer just duty. It had become purpose. When she spoke of her fears, the pressure to rule, the weight of her people's expectations, and the constant threat of enemies, he listened without judgment. He did not offer advice unless she asked. He simply offered understanding, a rare and precious gift she had never received before. One night, they found shelter in the ruins of an old Lithirian observatory. The stars above glowed brighter than Elias had ever seen, painting the night with shades of green and silver. Solara sat quietly, watching the constellations, and Elias joined her. "You've seen the stars of Earth," she said softly. "Are they as bright as these?" Elias shook his head. "No, Earth stars are small. They can't compare to this, but they remind me of home." His voice was low, thoughtful, almost vulnerable. Solara turned to him, her eyes reflecting the alien light. "You carry home with you even here," she whispered. Elias smiled faintly. "Home isn't always a place. Sometimes it's people. Those you protect. Those you care about." For the first time, Solara felt something stir inside her she could not name. Respect, gratitude, something softer, almost tender. She had been taught to trust no one fully, to rely only on her own strength, but Elias had shown her that courage and kindness could exist together. He was human, flawed and unpredictable, yet somehow stronger than any Lithirian warrior she had ever known. Their bond deepened with every shared moment of fear and laughter. They learned the rhythm of each other's breathing, the weight of each other's presence. Elias would wake in the middle of the night and quietly check the perimeter of their temporary shelter, ensuring no danger approached. Solara began to wait for him, feeling safer simply because he existed nearby. Sometimes when words were not enough, they communicated through glances and gestures. A hand on an arm, a shared smile, or even a silent nod could carry more meaning than any language. But even amidst this growing connection, the shadow of danger lingered. The rogue faction still hunted them, and the palace was a fortress of enemies. Solara knew the weight of her responsibilities had not disappeared, and Elias understood that every moment of peace might be fleeting. Yet they clung to what they had found in each other: trust, courage, and the quiet comfort of companionship. One evening, as the twin moons of Lithira cast silver light across the garden where they rested, Solara finally spoke aloud the thought she had kept hidden. "You are not like anyone I've ever met," she said softly, almost to herself. Elias looked at her, his eyes steady and warm. "I protect those who matter," he said simply. "And right now, that means you." Her heart swelled with emotions she could not name. Gratitude, relief, something deeper. A connection that went beyond words, beyond rank, beyond fear. She realized that in Elias Kane, she had found not just a protector, but someone who saw her as she truly was: a person. Not a symbol, not a crown, but a being worth fighting for. And in that quiet, alien garden under the glowing stars of Lithira, human and princess discovered a bond stronger than danger, stronger than fear, and more powerful than any royal decree. Together, they were no longer just survivor and rescued, they were partners in courage, in hope. And in the quiet magic of trust, Elias Kane and Princess Solara had moved carefully through Lithira's hidden paths for days, always alert, always listening. But even the cleverest plans could fail. The rogue faction tracking them was relentless, and they finally cornered the human and the princess in an abandoned temple on the cliffs of the eastern coast. The temple had once been a place of worship, its walls etched with glowing runes that whispered stories of Lithra's past. Now it would become the stage of a brutal confrontation. Elias sensed the danger long before the attackers arrived. The air shifted. It carried the faint hum of energy weapons powering up. He pulled Solara behind a tall, broken column, pressing her close. "Stay down. Stay quiet," he whispered. His heart raced, not from fear, but from the need to protect her at all costs. Solara nodded, her golden hair brushing his arm, and he could feel her trembling. He gritted his teeth. He had promised himself he would not let anything happen to her. Not here. Not now. The first wave of attackers crashed into the temple courtyard. Lithirian energy blades hummed, cutting through the air with deadly precision. Elias fought with every ounce of strength and training he had. He dodged, blocked, and countered in ways the rogue soldiers had not expected. His human unpredictability was an advantage. His movements were erratic yet precise. He deflected an energy blade aimed at Solara with his armored arm, sparks flying, and struck another attacker with the butt of his weapon. Solara watched in awe, fear mixing with admiration. She had never seen anyone fight like this, not a Lithirian, not even her palace guards. Elias did not fight for glory. He did not fight for honor. He fought for her. Every swing, every block, every step forward was to ensure her safety. And she could feel it. The raw determination, the unshakable courage, the willingness to risk everything. It was overwhelming. But even Elias could not fight forever. The rogue faction was too large, too organized. They began to surround him, closing the exits, pushing him and Solara toward the temple's center. Elias realized they would be overwhelmed if he did not act carefully. He grabbed Solara's hand, pulling her behind a broken altar. "We have to move together." "Follow me," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos. They ran through the temple, twisting corridors and crumbling stairways, but the attackers anticipated every move. Elias fought off one soldier after another, but their numbers were too great. A sudden strike from behind knocked him off balance, and he fell heavily against a stone wall. Solara gasped, and Elias's first instinct was to shield her with his own body. That it was then that the rogue faction struck decisively. Two Lithirian soldiers grabbed Solara, pulling her from his side. Elias lunged, but a powerful blow from a blaster slammed into his chest, sending him sprawling. Pain seared through him, but his mind remained clear. He had failed to protect her fully, yet he refused to give up. He struggled to his knees, only to be overpowered by another pair of soldiers. When they dragged him before the queen's court, he expected punishment, even death. But Queen Mira, Solara's mother, was not like the faction that had captured them. Her presence was immense, her crystal-like eyes scanning him as if weighing every thought and action. She was terrifying, yet regal, a ruler whose judgment could shape the fate of worlds. "You protected my daughter," she said, her voice cold, yet with an undercurrent of curiosity. "But you are human. You are not one of us. And yet you risked everything to save her." "Why?" Elias met her gaze steadily. "Because it was right," he said simply. His voice carried no fear, no arrogance, only truth. "Because she needed protection. Because I would not stand by while someone hurt her." Solara's eyes softened as she stepped forward. "Mother," she said, her voice trembling but firm, "he saved me. He didn't have to, but he did. He is brave, more than anyone I've ever known." Queen Mira's eyes studied Elias again. He could feel her power, the weight of her judgment. Then slowly she nodded. "You have courage," she said. "Courage is rare, even among my own people. For that, you will not be executed. Yet you will not leave, not yet. Humans cannot be allowed to roam freely on Lithra while our enemies still exist." Elias's chest heaved, pain and relief mingling. He had protected Solara, yet now he realized the cost. He would not be free. But even in chains he would not regret a single moment. Solara reached for his hand, her fingers brushing his. "We will face this together," she whispered. And in that fleeting touch, Elias felt the promise of something stronger than fear, stronger than duty, the bond they had forged in fire and blood, a bond no enemy could break. Elias Kane had never felt the weight of chains like those on Lithra. The Queen's guards had placed him in a chamber of polished crystal and stone, a room designed to keep him confined, but unharmed. The walls glowed softly, reflecting the light of the twin moons outside, and though the room was beautiful, it felt like a prison. He could move freely enough to sit or walk slowly, but the doors were sealed by energy locks that no human could break. Solara was brought to him each day, under careful guard. She refused to let him face the world alone. Her presence was a lifeline, a reminder that what he had done mattered. Each time she entered the chamber, her golden hair catching the light, Elias felt the tension in his chest ease, even if only slightly. She did not speak at first, simply observing him, her eyes searching for signs of pain or fear. But Elias's gaze was steady, calm, and she felt an unexpected sense of comfort. "You didn't have to do it," Solara finally said one evening, her voice quiet but firm. She had removed her usual royal poise, standing in simple clothing, her vulnerability visible. Elias looked up at her, a small smile forming on his bruised and tired face. "I didn't do it because I had to," he said. "I did it because it was right. Because you mattered." Solara blinked, caught off guard by the simplicity and honesty of his words. No one had ever said such things to her, not her teachers, not her guards, not even her mother. Elias's words were strange, yet comforting, and she felt a warmth she had long buried beneath duty and expectation. Days turned into nights, and nights into careful routines. Solara would bring him meals, and they would sit together in silence, sharing the quiet moments that became precious. Sometimes she spoke of Lithra, its history, its people, and the weight of her crown. Elias listened, fascinated, offering no judgment, only understanding. He asked questions about her fears and her dreams, things that no one else had dared to ask. Solara began to feel a connection she had never known, a bond that was not born of politics or power, but of mutual respect and trust. One night, as they sat on the floor of the chamber watching the soft glow of the moons, Solara's voice trembled. "Do you ever feel alone, Elias?" she asked. He turned to her, meeting her eyes. "Always," he admitted. "But I've learned that loneliness is easier to bear when you protect someone, when someone trusts you. You've given me that." Solara's lips curved into a small, genuine smile. She reached out, resting her hand lightly on his arm. "And you've given me courage I didn't know I had," she whispered. The touch was fleeting, yet it carried a depth of emotion neither of them had anticipated. It was not romance, not yet, but it was a connection that words could barely describe. The guards did not intervene, but the Queen's eyes watched through unseen channels. Mira was aware of every interaction, yet she said nothing. She had seen Elias in battle, seen him risk everything, and she had begun to understand the unusual bond forming between human and princess. She also understood that this bond, if nurtured correctly, could become a strength for Lithra rather than a weakness. Elias and Solara spent their days sharing stories, sometimes speaking of Earth, sometimes of Lithra. Elias recounted battles he had fought, missions he had survived, and mistakes he had made. Solara shared her childhood, the pressure of being royalty, and her dreams for her people. Each story, each word, deepened their understanding of one another. Even in captivity, there were moments of levity. Elias would joke about his human clumsiness in Lithirian halls, and Solara would laugh, a sound so rare it felt like music to his ears. He began to see her not only as a princess or a symbol, but as a person, someone strong, yet capable of tenderness, fear, and joy. And she began to see him not as a soldier or a human outsider, but as someone brave, honorable, and steadfast to protect her in every sense of the word. By the end of the 5th day, an unspoken understanding had formed between them. They were no longer just captive and captive, rescuer and rescued. They were companions, confidants, and allies in a world that had tried to tear them apart. Every glance, every word, every touch carried weight and meaning, shaping a bond that no force could easily break. And as the moons of Lithra shone through the chamber windows, Elias and Solara knew one truth. Their connection had become more powerful than the chains that held them, stronger than fear, and braver than any battle fought on Lithra or Earth. Elias Kane had spent days in the quiet prison chamber, feeling the weight of captivity press against his chest like an invisible hand. Yet he remained calm. Every glance from Princess Solara reminded him why he had risked everything, the trust she placed in him, the bond they had forged through fear, laughter, and survival. But today, the quiet tension broke. Queen Mira had summoned them both to her throne room, and Elias knew this meeting could change everything. The throne room was vast, its ceiling stretching into the clouds. Crystals shimmered along the walls, reflecting the soft light of Lithra's twin moons. At the center, Queen Mira sat upon a throne carved from silver and obsidian, her presence commanding every inch of the room. She was regal, terrifying, and utterly unyielding. Yet her eyes carried a depth that spoke of wisdom and experience far beyond mortal understanding. Elias and Solara entered cautiously, stepping onto the polished floor. The guards fell back, leaving them alone before the queen. Elias's chest tightened, not with fear of death, but with the weight of uncertainty. He had protected Solara with everything he had. Yet now it seemed the consequences of that courage were far from over. "You have done what no Lithirian would," Queen Mira said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "You risked your life to save my daughter. You acted without orders, without consideration for your own safety. That is remarkable." Her eyes locked onto Elias, piercing yet thoughtful. "But you are human. You do not belong to Lithira. You do not understand our ways. And yet, you have earned my attention. Explain yourself." Elias swallowed, steadying his voice. "I did not act out of duty to the queen or Lithira," he said plainly. "I acted because it was right. Princess Solara was in danger. No one else could protect her at that moment. I could not stand by and do nothing." Solara stepped forward, her expression determined, her golden hair flowing in the soft light. "Mother," she said, her voice trembling slightly but carrying unwavering strength, "he saved me. He risked everything when everyone else hesitated. He is brave, loyal, and honorable. He sees me as more than a symbol, more than a crown. He sees me as a person. We cannot let him leave without recognizing his courage." Queen Mira's eyes softened ever so slightly, though her demeanor remained unyielding. "You speak with the voice of one who understands responsibility," she said, her tone measured. "And yet, humans are unpredictable. I cannot allow one of your kind to leave freely in a world where enemies seek to destabilize my reign." She paused, letting her words hang in the air, heavy and deliberate. Elias met her gaze without flinching. "I understand, Your Majesty," he said. "I accept your judgment, whatever it may be. My life is not mine alone. I have lived for duty before, and now I live for something greater, protecting those who cannot protect themselves." The queen studied him for a long moment, her gaze unwavering. Then she finally spoke, her voice calm but resolute. "You will not be executed, for your courage and honor demand respect. Nor will you be punished beyond confinement, for that would dishonor your bravery. Instead, you will remain on Lithira. You will not leave until you have proven your worth in service to the crown and the people. You will become a Lithirian protector, entrusted with the safety of my daughter and the stability of this realm. You will learn our ways, and in time, your actions will determine your freedom." Solara's eyes shone with relief and gratitude. She stepped closer to Elias, her hand brushing against his. "This is the only right decision," she whispered. Elias nodded, feeling a mix of pride and the bitter taste of confinement. He had wanted to save her freely, yet now he understood that his journey had only begun. He was not free in body, but his purpose was clear. "You accept this?" Queen Mira asked, her crystal eyes locking onto his. Elias straightened, drawing on every ounce of his inner strength. "I do," he said, his voice unwavering. "I accept, because protecting her, because doing what is right, is more important than freedom." The queen inclined her head, a gesture of finality. "Then you will serve, human. Serve with honor, and perhaps one day, your courage will be fully recognized." Elias looked at Solara, feeling the weight of her trust and the bond they shared. He could not leave now, yet he realized that being bound to Lithira was not a punishment. It was a mission, a calling, and a chance to make a difference. Solara's hand remained in his, grounding him, giving him strength. Together, they had faced danger, fear, and uncertainty. And together, they would face whatever came next. As the twin moons of Lithira cast silver light across the throne room, Elias Kane, human and soldier, understood something profound. Courage and honor were not limited by species. His humanity, his ability to care, to protect, and to act rightly had earned him a place among the stars of Lithira, not as a prisoner, but as a protector. And with Solara by his side, he would meet every challenge, every danger, and every trial with the same unwavering heart that had saved a princess and changed a kingdom forever.